What's going down? You tuned into the Jose Morales podcast. This is episode 8 of season 3. And I am blessed to have our second guest of this season, my man, Matt Beaudreau.
Yeah, nice.
Beaudreau?
Yeah, nailed it.
Is that really how I say it?
Yeah, for real. That's how I say it. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it. That's the California version.
What is it? Is it French?
Yeah, dude, it's French. So when I go, like if I've spoken in France, I've spoken in Canada, like when I speak there where they speak French, they say it all pretty, but I grew up in California.
Was it a pretty way?
I can't do it. I say
Beaudreau.
let
me hear you heard it.
They're all like,
the best version.
Beaudreau, I mean, they all that. It's super French, dude. Like you got to put your pinky up.
But, that's badass.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for tuning in for this episode. Very special episode. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff, but the main one that I love and the reason why I wanted to have this guy here is because the way he is reconstructing the education system in this country, in this world actually, worldwide. And I love what he's doing at Acton Academy. There's a lot of similarities as far as the vision, as far as how I come across with all my boxers and everything. So I'm like, man, I need to have this guy on. I'm blessed to have you, and not just to have you here, man, I'm blessed to know you and call you my friend, man. We've been friends for quite some time now.
Yeah, man.
I was actually on your podcast 2 years ago.
Yeah, which is a trip because you were one of the first I'd have to go back and take a look, but somewhere between like 2 and 5, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like, it was early on, man, and we're 150 almost episodes in now, so you helped kick it off, man.
Talk about your podcast. Shout it out. What is it called?
Cool, man. I appreciate that. The Essential 11, and so the whole thing started with the concept of going to people who are phenomenal humans first, and then good operators as well, right? So business owners, movie stars, professional athletes, whatever, and getting their advice to young people. So it's kind of like Tim Ferriss's Tribe of Mentors kind of deal, right? Mm-hmm. So I did a focus group. We had 1,500 young people, ages 13 to 22, and we said, what do you want to know from these people? And they gave us their top questions. We cultivated that down to that top 11, the essential 11, and we just use that as a framework for conversation. So wisdom from guys like you, wisdom from Gary Vee, Patrick Bet David, whatever, and they're pouring into the young people, man. So it's a blast.
I thought it was when I'm going into it, I'm like, wonder what he's gonna ask me. But it was off the chain.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it, and I actually shared it with some of my teens here because I'm around a lot of youth. I'm actually a teacher like you in a different way. But there it is. So you have not checked out the Essential 11 podcast. Tune into that. Subscribe. Also subscribe to ours if you have not. Mm-hmm. And typically I start off the podcast, I like to give an update of something new or something going on in my personal life, something like that.
Yeah.
In this scenario, I want to talk about, I don't know if you heard of it. This is something new that I recently found out. Have you heard of Meta World?
Is it something to do with Facebook? Facebook's transition?
Yeah, Facebook,
okay.
Instagram.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Okay, I know that much. That's it.
Yeah,
you just got all my knowledge right there.
Yeah, you're similar to me. I didn't really know much about it either.
Yeah.
Something about, I think they own Facebook, Instagram, or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know the ins and outs, but actually Amy was telling me that it's called Meta World, where it's kind of like a U-verse where people are actually buying real estate in this made up world.
Got it.
That it's all.
That's a trip to me.
It's a trip.
It's a trip to me. It's kind of like that whole NFT sort of deal, right? Like
yes.
It's all people spending a whole lot of cash in a virtual
world that's really not real, but it's real for them. And I guess you can go on dates with people on here. You can build a house. You can say, oh, I live next to Snoop Dogg and buy this house in Snoop Dogg's neighborhood in this virtual world and stuff like that.
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about that, man.
I was the same way,
man. That's a trip.
I try to look at it a couple different ways. I try to be like, I think of it sometimes with stuff that goes on now in the new era with the younger people.
Yeah.
I try to look at it like how when I was young and older people looked at what I was doing.
Yep.
And I'm like, maybe it's that time that things are just changing. Yep. But then I'm like, is there a fine line between times changing and us getting
dumber?
So there you go. Yeah, dude, you summed it up. Yes.
Man, no, I get that, right? And so and I wish I had the answers to that, man, because one of my businesses too is I speak to a lot of companies. I speak to a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and I've gotten to work with a lot of organizations over the past decade. And I talk about generations, and we talk about generational trends. We talk about that very thing, right? Because I'm trying to help these organizations understand, okay, how do I find good young talent? How do I lead them? How do I create that loyalty like we were talking about before we started, right? With Andy and what he's doing. So how do we create that loyalty? How do I lead them, manage them, retain them, all of that? And then I help the young people too understand, okay, we got the older people who are maybe in these managerial positions, but they look at the world differently too. And I try to get both sides to understand there's reasons you look at the world one way and somebody older looks at it a different way, somebody younger looks at it a different way. All these things shift our perspective, right? And so we got to understand that and appreciate that. But that is the fine question, right? At what point does it not matter that it's generational? It's just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yes,
you know, and exactly. I don't know where that line is, because I could probably say that's stupid and you should live in reality, and then some 18-year-old is going to make 25 million bucks on something and call me a moron. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. Whoever came up with that idea is genius.
Yes, sir.
Because you got people scared of COVID, staying home and isolating themselves from the world. And now they can hang out and go on dates from home. And
so then I see the other side too, though, where you got people that are like, cool, man, well, that's just going to encourage people to just
be lazy
forever
be
lazy, stay home and not do anything.
And unhealthy and
dude. And we see that. I mean, we see it with kids, right? We see it already with kids. You work with a lot of kids. I obviously work with a lot of kids. And that's one of the biggest things we've seen is that there's so much distraction. Like when we grew up, there's something, especially with young men, man, there's something where we've got this inner desire. We want to move. We want to be physical. We want to go, there's a DNA there. We want to go accomplish something. We want to go battle something. We want to go slay a dragon, whether that's, obviously metaphorical, but whether sometimes that drives us to get in the ring. Sometimes that drives us to go compete in another sport, whatever that is. We want to conquer something. Yeah. What I've seen with a lot of this younger generation is that the rise of video games and all these things, and again, people can game, don't game, whatever you want to do, but you get that rise, some of these kids, that is where they get that victory, and they get it 6, 7, 8 hours a day. So that's checking off that box for them that they've accomplished something. It's checking off that box, dude, that I'm conquering that dragon. But the problem is, you're conquering in this box. You're not actually physically moving. You're getting physically weaker. They're not getting any kind of sunlight, right? So health is deteriorating. Mental health starts deteriorating. They start going to things in the world like school, whether it's good school, bad school, doesn't matter. They start going there and they're like, well, what the hell do I want to do this for? I got that dragon to slay when I get home, right? And so that becomes this all-encompassing thing, and it actually goes, works to their detriment. So it's hard now, man. It's harder to be a parent. And than it ever has been with all of these things.
But that's why people like you are making a change in this world. And as you see, look, this is just an update that we talked about, and you can see the knowledge this guy brings to this and the type of conversations that he's gonna have with us that makes this episode so great. I haven't even really introduced the guy yet. We talked about Meta World and he went crazy. He started like, hold up, let's talk about parenting real quick. Man. So let us know, man. Give us a background on you, man. Who are you? What do you do? Tell us. Give us a 411 on you.
So
people don't even know what 411 is.
They probably don't, man. They probably don't. That's a good point. I'll give kind of the kind of high level. I mean, I've been in education for a long time, coming on like 2 decades now. And so when I say I've been in that game, I actually started at Stanford University and was working there for quite a while. So I got to see the game, and I always say game very, very, very intentionally when I talk about school. Because it is, the business of it has been more of a game than it has been, education. So I learned that early on at Stanford.
We're going to talk about this game more.
Yeah,
we're going to get into
100%, man.
But I'm going to let him finish his introduction
100%.
Because this game that he talks about is a big problem, I think.
It's a huge problem, man.
And we're gonna address that. But go ahead, keep going.
People don't realize what a game. So I ended up there, and again, that was post-college. I had turned down a job. I was telling you not too long ago. I turned down a job
another part.
At the
you have to go
Secret
over
Service.
This is a dope ass story. Go over this. We had lunch, and he told me this, and I had him on. I was like, wow, because I'm one of those people I'm a conspiracy theorist. That's what my friends call me.
Trust me, I've turned into that too, man.
Yeah, and
that label.
Yeah, conspiracy theorist. So then when I talk to people like yourself and you tell me shit like that, I'm like, look, there he goes. And then you say I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Bro, that's why I got pulled. That's part of where that whole thing started for me, right? So,
all right, tell the story.
So coming out of college,
this is an
man.
Awesome story. Listen
coming out
to
of
this.
college and had all my straight A's and whatever. I got my straight A's in high school and straight A's in college, which didn't mean I was that smart. It just meant I understood how to play the game of school. Right, that didn't translate into anything because I was useless. There was no value I was necessarily bringing to the real world. I was good at sports. I was good at girls. All done.
That's a good combo.
It was fun. It was fun, but I got
not for
nothing.
life.
But dude, it's not for life. I got nothing else to offer, right? So I'm trying to figure things out. So my senior year, 9/11 happens, and I'm like, all right, well that might be cool. I've got friends. I grew up in a law enforcement family. I got friends that are in military and special operations, and I got friends in Secret Service too. And I'm like, man, you know what? That might be kind of cool. So I apply, and so my whole senior year, as I'm finishing up school, I'm going through the background process for Secret Service. So I get offered conditional employment, just meaning all you gotta do is graduate from college, you just gotta finish. So I get offered that in March of 2002, and I'm gonna graduate in May, and as soon as I graduate in May, I'm gonna head out to the White House and start working there. So I get that conditional offer, and I'm all excited, and a friend of the family, a gentleman named Michael, came back, and he's been working for Secret Service. He was about ready to retire. He's like, man, we got to have a talk. And we sat down and talked for probably about 3 hours, man. And he's just like, look, these are all the reasons you don't want to do this. And it really boiled down to integrity. He was like, this whole thing isn't exactly as it seems. Even just this whole 9/11 thing's not exactly as it seems. The Bushes and Bin Ladens have been friends as families for a long time. He starts going into all this stuff, and he's like, there was Bin Laden's brother was at the White House the day before 9/11 hit. He starts sharing all this stuff. He's like, you're gonna be you're gonna lie. You're gonna lie as part of your job. You're gonna lie to your family. You're gonna lie to your friends. And so he's like, dude, you have to sacrifice your integrity. And that, for better or for worse, growing up and all the mistakes I made and all the, the weird things with the parents inside and out, but the integrity is something I'll never compromise. I just can't. So turned that down, and then graduated, and so then I had to figure out what to do with my life, and so it was all those odd jobs there.
Shit.
So yeah,
Crazy
so
shit.
so it's stuff like that, and now having friends that were in the CIA forever and working with big pharma as some of my clients and all that. So I've got more to add to your conspiracy theory. So we'll hook all that up too.
Let's not make it a conspiracy
no,
theory
we're not going to do
episode,
it, but we got plenty to talk about.
For sure. Keep going with that. So after that, you turned down that position, and you said you worked at the mall. Remember, I've been at the store. So go into it. Give me your whole story. This is a great. I love how everything turned you out. Made you a better person at what you're doing now. Like all this added to why your vision and what you do now is so great.
And that's one of the things, especially for young people to realize, man, is I always tell people collect experiences, because if you collect experiences, that's going to give you, I say it's fire, aim, ready, right? It's not ready, aim, fire. You collect experiences, you fire, you say yes, and you just go forward. And then what that's going to do is it's going to give you, at that point, a little bit of direction. And then you can start to aim and start to go forward, collect more experiences to eventually get to that ready point, right? And so this was definitely a case of that. So I turned down that job, I graduate, and I've got nothing really. So I'm at the mall with some of my boys, and it was the old, this was, you guys got to remember, this is early 2000s, right? And so somebody comes out of this store, and everybody knows it, Abercrombie and Fitch, and everybody knows it, and everybody could smell it in the mall, especially back in the day, man. And that was like, at that time, it was like it had a different kind of popularity. So yeah, a lady comes out and she's like, dude, you ever thought about working here? I'm like, no. She's like, well, did you graduate college? And I'm like, yesterday. And she's like, well, if you did, you can manage here. And I'm like, cool, man, I need a job. So let's roll. So started working for that company. Thankful for it, because I actually met my wife there, which is cool. She was one of the first, I went to the Pleasanton store here in California, and she was the first employee that I met there. So we became friends for a couple years. So that's obviously worked out well. So
Abercrombie Fitch hooked
it up, man. So I got no bad blood there, man. So worked for that company for a couple of years. But as I was walking, going around and opening all these stores and everything, I had this guy that came in and was helping his family out. And we got done, and he's like, hey, man, I've been in here a couple times. I always appreciate what I see from you in here. I always appreciate your hustle. I always appreciate your outlook. You're very positive. I've got a series of businesses, and I'd love for you to come work for me. And I'm like, cool, man. What do you do? He's like, well, I'm in the fitness industry. And I'm like, cool. I graduated, and I was an athlete. I graduated with a kinesiology degree. And he's like, awesome, man. I would love for you to come. I have some companies, you probably heard of them, called 24 Hour Fitness. So it was Mark Mastroff, right? Founder of 24 Hour Fitness. And I had no idea who the dude was, but just doing the right thing while I was there, even at Abercrombie and Fitch, right? Just working hard, trying to make sure, I'm like, dude, I'm working at Abercrombie. This obviously isn't a long tail thing, but I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. And I'm gonna be the best employee that we've got, and that hustle, right? So that opened up to Mastroff, and it ended up being the same kind of thing, working there for a couple years, great opportunities. And it was same kind of situation where somebody was like, hey, I've got a position open at Stanford. You're really good at, I had done a seminar there, and they're like, I love having you up in front of people and what you're doing. We're kind of starting like a development sort of thing at Stanford. Would love to have you come do, corporate trainer. So that's what got me into education. But always just doing the right thing.
Right thing.
Yep. So started out at that high level and learned that I loved, being up in front of people and helping people, but was seeing the game of ed and was kind of going, this is interesting. All right, well, maybe I can change it. Maybe I can change what I'm seeing if I kind of start down at the bottom, right? And start teaching. So went into teaching, started teaching in Stockton areas, right? And so going into some rougher spots and some, gang-related activities. I remember the first principal I interviewed with, she was like, look, we got some rough students here. She's like, you're kind of this pretty, white kid.
On, your resume says Abercrombie and Fitch,
You came from Abercrombie and Fitch. You're this pretty white kid, and I'm like, all right, man, I get it. But I also grew up, like you and I were talking about recently. I grew up, and I had a lot of friends that were in gangs and had gone down that road, and so I'm interested, man. Like I want to jump in and work with that. I can connect with these kids, man. It'll be cool. So. Was a public school teacher for a while, and public school teacher to public school administrator, and all the while learning the game and seeing that it's not about kids.
We're gonna get into the game, but before we mention this game, you're like a life testimony of what I talked about in the previous episodes. I talked about finding purpose and getting. I have a lot of people that mentioned to me, well, I don't really know how to find what I want to do good, and you just said it straight. Dude, the same thing. Just go out there and shoot.
Collect experiences, man.
And
dude, so it's not that hard. It's not. I shouldn't. So it's simple. It's never easy, but it's simple, right? The process. So. Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs.
Oh yeah,
right?
I've heard of him.
So one of the things that he always said, and I got to do a speaking engagement with him in Ohio a few years back. One of the things that he was saying was, he says people always talk about you gotta find your passion. He says, no man, you bring your passion to everything you do, no matter what, and then you'll figure out what kind of things you like, what kind of things you don't. But you always do it to the best of your ability, and you do as many things as you can. Right, and so that has definitely been the thing is how many experiences can you collect? How much responsibility can you shoulder? Because if you do that, it starts to open up. And the way that I always explain it to young people is I say, man, if I asked you to tell me what your favorite food was, but all you've ever eaten are the same 5 foods, well, you're gonna pick
one of those 5 foods.
One of those 5 foods,
yeah.
Right? But if I take you to a buffet every single day and I just go, man, start eating. Go over here, go over there, go to the seafood, go to the Chinese food, go over here, grab some tacos, grab a steak, grab whatever, and you just start, like that becomes your thing because you try everything. Well then, not only can you give me a more realistic answer, because you know what you like, you know what you don't like, but you also can start to get creative with that too, right? And you can start to go, man, I really like this, but I also really like this. I wonder if there's a way I can fuse this together, right? And then that's how you can start to create something different, and you start, but you can never do that if you've only eaten those 5 foods, right? And that's what experiences are. So if you want to find your purpose and passion, you go collect as many of those things as you can to the best of your ability.
Oh, you know,
and it starts to clarify.
Perfect way.
But it comes with that first, right? It's the responsibility first.
Just trying it.
Then you get the freedom of knowing who I am and where I'm going.
Yep. And then also while you're doing it, another thing that can happen when you're there is you can see so many things that you didn't like. Like you said with the education system, like, I don't like
this. Yes.
And then boom, Acton Academy is born.
That's it. And our kids, same thing. Like they'll go through all these different projects every single year, right? And all these different individual projects, collaborative projects. And sometimes they come up to us and they're like, I don't really like this one. I'm like, cool.
Fix it.
So what? Yeah, that's it. Do the best of your ability. get as creative with it as you can. And then at the end, you're gonna find out one of two things. Either one, you were able to change something, you actually like it more than you think, or two, maybe you really did hate it, and that's cool too, because now you never do it again. Yeah. And you know, right? So many people come out and they're like, all right, well, I hate this question for young people, but what do you wanna do when you get older? I hate that question. The question should be, what problems do you wanna solve, and can you start solving stuff now? That should be the question. But what do you wanna do, right? So then they pick what they hear is, I wanna be a nurse. Why? Okay, because I think I get to help people, and I heard they make a lot of money, and I hear that it's in demand. You don't know shit about nursing. You don't know if you want to do it, because if you knew you wanted to do it, you wouldn't be able to stop studying it right now. Yeah. Right? You just think you want it. So then what happens is they go to school, they get their nursing degree, and they go in and they're like, this sucks. I don't really like it, because I never really knew what it was, but now I'm stuck and I paid all this money. That's why you have so many unhappy adults doing things for so long that they don't want to actually do. Right? Yep. So do the things early, experiment, put your passion into it, try it, and then you can actually make an educated decision.
Let's talk about this game. I think you kind of went into it right there, but let's dive into it. Yeah. Because I'm gonna bring this topic up real quick. Recently, I went to Acton Academy and we did a tour? What do you call it?
Yeah, like an info session, open house kind of deal.
And I'm enrolling my son at his school, Alonso, and I love everything about Acton Academy. I have always have.
Yeah, appreciate that.
The beginning, I was trying to get my son in from the very beginning, and I had to get my wife on board. My wife was like, Yeah. Long story short, what I really liked that you said that day is how you went into detail explaining how you bring the best out of each hero, each hero being each kid. And how you have different options, and they don't all have to be entrepreneurs. They don't have to do the end of the day. They're doing what they like and where their passion's at. And this comes from the game you're talking about. Explain how that was born from this game. Give me from the birth to where it's at now. Give me the whole lowdown.
So, the game of school, and so like you said, you had to talk your wife into it, right? Because what we've been trained to believe is that the young person, in order to grow up and have opportunities and whatever in the society, and it was true kind of for a small period of time, is that you need to do this game called school in order for opportunities to open up, right? The problem is that game of school was built by people who wanted to create a population who was smart enough to follow directions and would follow directions to whoever claimed to be authority, and they would follow them like that, but not really think enough for themselves to do things differently, do things better, right? That's ultimately, in a nutshell, how that game was created. So school is created to really actually disconnect you from the real life. If you think about it, let's talk in terms of boxing. Right, if you got a 5-year-old who's coming into school and says, I want to learn boxing, school says, all right, cool, right? From a theoretical standpoint, all right, cool. Well, this is going to be your teacher this year. That teacher has probably never actually boxed, probably never actually been a boxer at all, maybe read a couple books on boxing, but they're going to be the teacher. And then they're going to teach you how to, memorize certain names of boxers and when they box, and they're going to teach you to memorize some of the fights. They want you to memorize that, and you're going to take a multiple choice test to know that Mike Tyson knocked out Spinks in 93 seconds. You're going to memorize all this, and then you're going to create a trifold board about your favorite boxer, and that's going to be arbitrarily judged by somebody who's coming by, right? Whereas you go, okay, you want to learn to box? Let's box. Let's do it. I've been a boxer. So I'm somebody who is actually competent in this, and I'm going to train you on actually how to do it. And you're going to get in the ring, and you're going to actually learn by doing, and you're going to suck, and you're going to fail, and you're going to fall, and you're going to get hit, but you're going to get better, and then you're going to practice, and that's how you actually learn to do anything. Yep. So school is the theory of how things work that doesn't actually translate and map out into real life. Acton Academy goes, okay, well, then you're going to actually try it. We're going to actually do it. We're going to actually do these things so that you can learn how to actually be competent in all of this, right? Like that is the basics. And now it's much more nuanced than that, but that's the basic game. Academia is kind of a pyramid scheme around academics. Like you get good at school to be better at school. That's the long tail game. That's why we have so much difficulty transferring somebody straight from school into any given workforce and have them be successful, because you don't actually ever do the things you're meant to do, right? And so Acton Academy switches that upside down. So we want students taking things on early. They take on responsibilities early. They're gonna take on jobs early, jobs on campus, jobs off campus. They're gonna be teaching others. They're gonna collaborate around real world projects. So we might say, okay, you guys are all gonna, they do individual things and collaborative things, and we want to expose them to all those. It's that buffet. So we want to expose them to all those different things. So we might go, okay, here's the deal. You guys have 6 weeks, and you're going to create a music video that is going to be a lip dub, and you guys have to coordinate. Every single person has to have a part in the video, and you've got to incorporate, this, and this, and you got to have it out in 5 weeks. You guys are going to create an entire city. You have to build some out of hammer, with a hammer, wood, nails, whatever. You got to 3D print part of the city, and you got to put some of it together with clay and cardboard. You got to put it all together, and then you got to figure out how to run electricity to it. And then we're going to give you other little challenges throughout to learn how to build a water wheel or learn circuitry and all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to say, you guys got to go in 6 weeks. We're going to have 300 people in this auditorium, and we're going to put all this together, and you're going to flip a light switch, and we're going to see if the electricity comes on. And then, dude, they get after it. They get to work, and they try. That's real learning. They're really building a city. They're really learning how electricity works. They're really learning to light up a city. And dude, here's the thing. Even if they flip that switch and it doesn't come on, so what? Because then you just get to go back and go, okay, why didn't it work? Yeah. There's no arbitrary A, B, C, D. There's no failure is okay. Failure is a good thing, and we'll applaud it. And then we go back and go, cool, how do we fix it? But that's what all of their experiences are like. Right now, they're building out escape rooms on campus right now. And parents are gonna come on like Thursday or Friday, and they're gonna come play these escape rooms, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna try. They had to try to create all these different puzzles, and then write a whole story and a background story and a theme, and they gotta do this public presentation of, they created a whole Titanic-based theme where you got an hour to get off the ship because the ship's about to sink, and the only way to do it is to solve these puzzles. Like, they gotta work together to create those things. When you got a human being that grows up doing that kind of stuff versus everybody's doing the same shit, same time.
Fucking mummies.
You just get a bunch of robots that don't give a shit because they know inherently it doesn't matter. You get a different human being, man. The mindset is different. The way you perceive the world is different,
I agree. I love how you start your days at school. How do all the students do? I love this part.
So this is part of that.
That's how they start their day
This
at
is
school.
part of the old, it's a weird life hack now, unfortunately, right? But the students, it doesn't matter if you're 5, 18, whatever, they're in their studios, they're in a circle that's a Socratic circle. They stand up, they turn to the person next to them, they look them in the eye, and they say good morning, and they shake hands. They use their names. I'd say good morning, Jose, and I would shake a hand, right? And then you would turn and say good morning to the person next to you. We go around and we start every single day like that, because character still matters. Respect still matters. Being a person of integrity still matters. And it matters now, ironically, more than it ever has, man, because so many people don't do it. They lack it. So I've got young people that when we've got people on site, entrepreneurs on site, CEOs or whatever coming in, and I've got young people that are automatically walking up saying, hi, my name is, nice to meet you. Let me show you around. Mm-hmm. People just lose their shit. Yeah. Because they're not used to it.
When you give someone your hand, some people are like weird about it.
They don't even know what to do.
Yeah, they're like, wait, he's giving me his hand.
They don't even do it, right? And never mind when you get a young person that does it and does it confidently too.
Looking at you in the eyes.
Looking at you in the eye, not because, oh, this is what I was told to do. No, they understand why it's important, and they have the confidence to do it. That's a different thing, man, and it just opens up so many more doors.
Explain the studios.
Right,
this is new. A lot of people, I didn't know it. I learned it that day, but it's very good.
So the studios is it's a mixed age group, right? So depending on which Acton campus you're on, you've got ages, all different ages. We have, TK through high school, right? So I got 5-year-olds, I got 18-year-olds, and we got everywhere in between. But the studio is roughly about the same age, and that's gonna be your primary group where you have your Socratic conversations and some of your collaborative projects with, right? So you got a studio that's kind of like 5, 6, 7-ish years old. And I say ish because we'll pay attention to each kid, right? If that person is 7, but socially, emotionally, academically, they're still like, they still kind of need to be with that younger group, and that's where they vibe more. Cool, man, that's fine. If they're 7 going on 40 and they need to be cool, man, then you go up here, right? And then you got kind of like the 8, 9, 10, 11, you got kind of your middle school group, and you got kind of your high school group. So it's that mixed age group. And that's where they're gonna have the Socratic, because the Socratic conversation, where we're trying to get you to be able to articulate what you believe, why you believe it, have really high level conversations. Obviously that looks different for 18-year-olds than it does 5-year-olds, right? But then they'll all still collaborate. You might have 18-year-olds teaching 5-year-olds later on something, or so they still get to collaborate, but those studios are where that's their primary group.
And I like how you got everyone they have to learn to take control of their situation. Like they want it, like you said, the homework situation.
That's right. They got to take control of their learning, right? The ideal situation for us on our campus.
This is crucial.
Is
I love
that
this. Listen to this.
The adults become as irrelevant as possible, as quickly as possible. So I always say, like, and I try to shake parents up when they come in, right, to get them, because to get them to understand this.
I could tell that day there was a few that were like, wait, hold up, what you mean?
That's the point, man, is I want to scare the shit out of them right away, right? Because I tell them, like, the ideal situation on our campus is that none of the adults show up, none of the kids notice, nothing matters, and they still run it like a Fortune 500 company. And people go, oh, sure, that's cute, bullshit, that's real. That's real. They will run their day. And when they get efficient enough, they don't need us, we're there as guys, we're mentors, right? And people, well, it's not impossible. If you coach young people playing basketball, right? You coach a team of, maybe you coach middle school basketball. You taught them how to play basketball. Yeah. You taught them the skills. You taught them some plays. You're not out playing with them. You're coaching from the sideline. And if they've been playing for a little while, right? Maybe they all grew up playing. They grew up playing together when they were 5, and now they're all 12. So they've been doing this for 7 years. Dude, your point guard might go, hey man, I know I'm calling this play, but I'm gonna call this on the fly because I can beat this dude off the dribble, right? So if you'll come up, dude, we can pick and roll all day, whatever. And he can see those things because he's got the experience. They can make those calls on the fly. The coach is just kind of watching. You call timeout, maybe throw some things in there, but get back in the game. Is the coach up there lecturing them the whole time? No, they're operating, and the coach is like, hey, don't forget this, don't forget that. That's what our school looks like. As these young heroes get to know how the day works and get to know how to run a business, the business of what they are doing, the adult becomes less and less relevant. Yeah. Right? That's a real deal.
That's life.
That's life.
Yep.
And so they're not having to get thrust into it at 22, when at this point they have had 22 years of somebody else telling them what to do and when to do it. And now all of a sudden you got a boss that's like, hey man, I expect you to do well. And they're like, what? Fucking, can I go to the bathroom? And you're like, what the you're like, that's what we're creating with school. Yeah. At this point you got somebody that's taking that shit and they're owning it. They're owning their life.
Yes, and getting parents on board with something like this is for sure tough. I can see that. Man. I like the process of how you did it, how you show them. You can't just enroll them there, because it just shows that you want them to be successful. You're not, I don't want just your money. You're not like, oh, enroll everyone here, I just want your money. You're like, no, I want to make sure if you're here, we're all on board. It's a community. Yep. And
that's it.
Your kid is successful here.
That's right, man. It's got to be that way. If you try to open, something up like this to everybody, you end up serving nobody. Because it gets messed up. So you're right. You got to have that. It breaks my heart because I want it for every young person. But before we can get people to get out of, it's like 92% of our population has gone through government schools. Dude, if 92% of the shit you bought had to come through Amazon, people would be they'd freak out. They'd be like, dude, that's a monopoly. It's a monopoly. You can't have 92% of all your products coming through there, but we're gonna send 92% of our people through this same system for 12 years. That's a monopoly, right? We're creating a mass mindset, and that's dangerous, right? And so until we can't change that without starting and showing something, right? We gotta show something different. And so we're creating we can talk about the issues of this model all day long. The reality is we got to create something better, right? Gary always says don't get the biggest building by tearing down the other building, build your building bigger. And so that's what we're doing, is building that building bigger so that people can start to see that, so that we're not having to try to convince anybody. They just get it and they just want to come. Like they have to have that.
Yeah, that's the best way to getting somebody to join your team or anything, because your success speaks for itself. I don't have to knock down the public school system and all this. Like, look what I'm doing. Yep. Talk about your business fair, man. That business fair you did with the kids.
So part of what we do, every young person starts a business with us, and that's every year. They either start a new business or they take their business into perpetuity. And I don't care if they're 5 years old, 12 years old, 18 years old. They're starting a business or taking it into perpetuity. And people will mistake that, and they'll go, hey man, you think everybody should be an entrepreneur. And I actually think most people shouldn't really be entrepreneurs.
You're not meant. Some people do. This is a DNA thing.
It's a DNA thing, dude. It is a DNA thing, man. Like, you have got to have that special thing. But the reality is everybody benefits from the entrepreneurial mindset. We were talking about Andy Frisella and his right-hand man. His right-hand man is crushing it, right? He's not the entrepreneur in that scenario. He technically works for Andy, but I guarantee you he's in that because he's got an entrepreneurial mindset. He's looking for ways to continuously provide value. He's not afraid to adapt. He's not afraid to pivot. He's not afraid to put in the long hours if he's got to put in. He's got the entrepreneurial tendencies, right? Yeah. Everybody benefits from that, whether you're the entrepreneur or you're an employee. So we want our heroes to develop that. So best way to do it is by doing it, starting a business. So every single year we will have a business fair where they will have at least 6 weeks. A lot of them, again, are taken into perpetuity, so they're doing it year round, to start a business, bring a product or service to the market, and then we'll have a big fair where we'll have them all out on campus. They have booths set up with their business, their product, their service, or whatever, and we invite the community in. So last year we had, in a 3-hour time frame, we had 1,500 people come by. We got about 100 booths out there. And we had kids, some of the kids, the younger ones, are happier than shit. They made $50 selling cupcakes, right? These 5-year-olds, and they're cute. And then they go through and they're figuring out the change and they're figuring out how much money they made. Sometimes parents make them borrow money to start and have to pay it back. And, depending on the parent and all this, which is rad. We also had young people make $4,000, 3 hours on a Saturday, make 4 Gs because they're making some legit stuff. Or they've started businesses that they take into perpetuity and they're starting to do services. I got a young man who a couple years ago started doing kind of camera work and stuff like some of these studs are doing over here, right? And this year, he's a senior. He's probably only on campus because he's finished all of his stuff that he needs to as far as graduation. He's probably only on campus 2-3 hours a week because the rest of the time he's out running his business. He's out shooting commercials. He's out doing podcasts. He's out doing he's created his business there and he's thriving, and I got students that pay their own tuition because they make enough in their business to pay their own tuition. So yeah, it's great, man. So the business fair every single year, we'll get thousands of people there, man. And it's just the best, dude. It's the best day.
It's badass. I love that shit. I love that shit. I love too how you, the parents are, most of the parents, not most of them, but obviously all of them support and believe in what you're doing, but they are also themselves entrepreneurs, and all of them got the same mindset. You know what I'm saying?
A lot, for sure. So it makes sense that they've adopted it easier than some people who are I grew up in school being told what to do. I want to be a forever employee being told what to do, right? That's a harder thing for them to switch over. So the entrepreneurs, tend to go, hell yeah, this makes a whole lot of sense, right? This is the way the world actually works. So yeah, that makes sense. We got a lot of entrepreneurial parents who are very much on board.
I was telling you, I run the gym very similar to that.
Yes, sir.
I do the Warrior program, and I do a lot of the same stuff, how you said.
Yep.
I tell you what I expect from you, and it's up to you to do it or not.
That's right.
If you don't do it, you're gonna stay there forever. I'm not gonna hold your hand.
That's right.
You gotta figure it out and go through it. Getting the parents on board is definitely a battle, because the whole thing. But I really like how you broke it down and how
we just try to filter as much as possible by breaking it down and going, look, man, this either makes sense to you or it doesn't. Either one's fine. I got no ill will towards you. If you don't get it, man, it's all good.
Don't battle us.
We got no desire. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince you.
So what do you see happening with Acton Academy with you and this in the future? Give us your,
Yeah.
what's your vision? I know there's a few campuses opening up. You told me maybe Auburn, and you said SAC has one.
So I've got one I've got, Roseville, SAC, and Lincoln right now. We've got parents, all over the place that are interested, and it's about finding the real estate matters too, right? Finding those spots. So, but I'm also part of the what we call governance council for the entire network. And that sounds fancy. I don't get anything for it. It just, I get a chance, I get a chance to work more. Like, that's it, right? But I get to work with guys like Andy and help open one out there in Missouri, right? I get to work with the calls that I had before I came in here. I was talking to a lady in New York, and I was talking to a couple in Ohio, right? About helping them get up and running so that they can be successful in opening theirs. So we, as a network, I'm very committed to getting as many of these going as we can. So right now we got 200 and almost 300 globally, which people don't know because we've been quiet. We've been kind of under the radar. And there's a reason we're kind of under the radar. Part of that game of education, it is very much run by teachers unions, and teachers unions will go to the end of the earth to battle. And I'm talking some mafia shit. Like, it's not like there's a reason they want public school, government school, something that everybody has to go through cradle to grave, kind of deal. So anybody creating a better alternative, that's a dangerous thing for them. So we've been kind of floating under the radar as we're building, but it's at this point, like, we're kind of ready to push this. So we've got, we've got some partners that everybody in the world knows who they are, that are very excited about this, that are bringing Actons, so we're going to continue to push, man. In the next few years, I think we'll have 1,000 strong locations.
That's badass. Mm-hmm. That's badass. Yep. What do you what's your hobbies? Do you do anything else when you're not working? What is, when you're not in Acton Academy, what do you, Matt do? Well, I mean, talk to me about that.
It's we were talking about that entrepreneurial DNA, and dude, that is,
you're 24/7.
I can't.
It's hard to shut off.
It is hard to shut it off, man. So I've always got, we got obviously the campuses are going. The campuses don't need me. They're running day-to-day stuff. I'm there just because I love it, and I love the people I get to be with. Mm-hmm. But, so I'm always looking at other things too. So like Tim and I have that mentorship program. We're also launching a college alternative for young men that'll launch this fall. So always building out, things to be able to help and to serve. But obviously, and my family takes, I make sure that family is a priority, wife and 3 kids, and we've got horses that takes time. We've got a ranch that takes time. And that honestly is a nice way to kind of shut the mind off for a little bit and get out and have to do the physical labor stuff. It just shuts off that little, you have to.
It helps you recruit.
It helps you recruit.
Win,
that's
come
it,
back
man.
harder.
That's kind of like the rest and recovery, So that really has ended up being it. I try to stay in decent shape as a former athlete. You start to
you look good.
It's you know how it goes. Dude, as you get older,
when you were boxing, you were looking good.
So I appreciate that, man. And so, try to stay in shape and stay, working out. But it's family and ranch stuff, and it's a pretty simple existence, man. Which is, I think I've said yes for so long, collecting those experiences. I have a really solid idea of who I am at this point. Yeah. I definitely don't have anything else I, want to prove. I was the 5'9" white dude that could dunk. I was,
You could dunk?
I could, man.
Oh,
back in the
shit.
day.
5'9"?
I had nine fights in the cage. I put myself in there. I've done TED Talks. I've done, I've done the experiences that I wanted to have. So I got nothing that I feel like I got to prove to anybody about anything. So I feel like I'm playing with house money at this point, right? So for real. So like the rest of my life is just cool, man. Wife and kids first, and then after that, how else can I help humanity, man? And I'm at peace, man. I got a, between here and here, man, I got peace, dude. So.
All right, let's get into some random stuff before we end it.
All right.
What's your favorite spot to eat around here?
Dude, Tang's might be it now. That shit was,
you really like it that much?
It was good, dude.
It's
that
fire,
was legit. I love sushi, man. So any sushi restaurants are, and
Tang's is fire.
Dude, Tang's is super good.
You have to talk to him You'll
Yeah.
see him if you go in there. He's
Yeah.
an amazing dude.
Good
Great
folks.
story too.
Yeah.
Great story, amazing dude.
That's awesome, man. And
He's very low key though. He does not like camera.
Okay, all right. Well, Taro's Taro's my boy
Yeah.
too, and great dude, right?
He
So,
likes camera.
He likes the camera.
He's
And
tight.
for
I'm
sure.
actually gonna have him on the podcast.
You should, man. I had him on not too long after I had you.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
he's a
have him
great
on.
dude,
He
man.
got a good story too.
He does, dude. He's got a hell of a story.
Yeah,
He's got
I'm
a
gonna
hell
have
of a
him on.
story,
I'm gonna
dude.
do
He's
it.
fun,
I'm gonna
so-
do it. I talked to him about 6 months ago about coming on.
Oh yeah.
And something happened. Oh, that second wave of COVID happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff.
Garbage.
Yeah.
No, he's a great dude, man. So any kind of sushi and steak, man, I'm golden.
How about steak? Where's your steakhouse out here?
Dude, honestly, I make it.
Oh, you.
I make it. Like anybody that's doing steak.
So the
out here-
steakhouse is at your house.
But dude, steakhouse is at my house. Steakhouse is at my house at this point, man. I did a little Traeger, a little reverse sear. Dude, it's
Anything you want to add to the podcast? Anything you want to be like, hey, say this? Anything you want to say?
You know, man, the biggest thing I just always wish for people, dude, is especially when you got parents, especially when you're talking about young people, is dude, quit living in fear. That's it, because I found that more and more, whether I go talk to an organization, whether I'm talking to parents, whether I'm talking to young people, whether I'm talking you get down to the point where there's so many people are just living, they don't have that peace, and they are, and it's a lot of times because they are afraid. They're afraid to piss somebody else off. They're afraid to make somebody else feel bad. They're afraid that my mom and dad won't agree with this, or somebody else won't agree with this, my friends won't agree with this, whatever. It usually is a fear of somebody else's opinion.
It is.
I mean, almost
you remind
always.
me of this.
Right?
It reminds me of this David Goggins. Was it a podcast? I think it was a podcast. And he mentioned this, and it totally reminded me of it. He's talking about how there's two people. There's a difference between a person that has no fucking excuse with the person that's trying to find an excuse to get out of something. Like if you're gonna wake up and you're gonna go running tomorrow.
Yep.
Some people check the forecast. Oh, it's sunny. Okay, cool. I'm gonna run. Oh, it's gonna be cold and rainy. Oh, fuck that. I'm gonna work out inside tomorrow.
Yep.
And then there's people that don't give a fuck what tomorrow is, and they're gonna go run regardless if there's a thunderstorm, sunny. It don't matter. You're there and they're working out.
Dude.
And that's kind of what it reminded me of right now with the fear. Like you're living in fear.
Yes.
And he said it to the T. I could agree with him very, very, very. Just how he was like, who gives a fuck? I had multiple people tell me all the time about different things at random stages in my life, like, oh, hold on, maybe don't do that yet because this may happen, or da-da-da. I don't give a fuck what happens. If it happens, I'll find a way to make it
figure
happen.
out at that point.
Yeah, I'll figure
That's
it out.
right. But
Yeah, so
but
that's a
going
good way.
forward, dude, that's it, man, and just go forward and make it happen. People I legitimately forget sometimes that these last 2 years have been weird for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? I forget that people are masked up. I forget, and not in a, I don't want to sound like I don't give a shit about other people, because that's not the case. I forget that it's been such a drastic difference for so many people because we're just gonna freaking go. We're just gonna live out, we're just gonna do what the hell we wanna do. And it's like you said, you get some weird things like, okay, so we're gonna, our business shut down. We're not shutting shit down. Social distancing and all the kids have to wear them. Get the fuck out of here with that. Like, this is what we're gonna do. And if somebody comes and tries to tell us otherwise, I'll deal with it at that point. And sure enough, county health director comes by and was like, here's what you gotta do. Here's how you gotta shut down. I was like, thank you for coming. Appreciate your concern. Here's why we're not going to. Take it easy. And that was, and I didn't give it another thought after that. And everything's been great, and we're continuing to grow, and we've added 2 more campuses since then. Like, we're just gonna keep doing, and that's just a metaphor for life in general. Like, it's just like that. Like, if that's your plan, that's your plan.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
Something else gets in the way. Sometimes the obstacle, holiday, right? The obstacle is the way sometimes, right? So the obstacle is there. Cool, man. Then that's a challenge. What do I get to learn from this challenge right here?
If you want it bad enough, you find it.
You will figure it out, man.
Yeah, I'll
figure it out.
I gotta share one more story to you that
Please.
reminds me. Angelo, one of my boxing coaches growing up, he grew up in Rio Linda.
Yeah.
And he mentioned how a girl in Del Paso Heights, when he was younger, was like, "Hey, you come over tonight, I'll give you some action."
Yeah.
And he was a teen. He didn't have a car, nothing, and his ass drove a tractor from Rio Linda to her house to make sure he got there and got the cookie.
Bro.
He drove a tractor.
Bro.
He said it was 2 a.m. and he was going like 10 miles an hour on the tractor.
For sure.
To get it.
For sure.
Because there was no,
right.
I don't have no transportation. He wanted it bad enough and he made this shit happen.
Dude, and that is life lesson. For sure. I had a girl call. She's like, "Man, I'm flying in right now. I'm gonna fly into the airport." And I'm like, "Cool, man, do it."
Let's go.
I had no car, right? And so my boy, I'm like, "Dude, hey man, can I borrow your car?" He's like, "Dude, do you know how to drive stick?" And I'm like, "Of course."
Burn the clutch.
Dude, I've never driven stick in my life. I'm like, "Dude, yeah, man, of course I do, right? I just got to go to the airport." So I got his car, and I'm like, "Fuck, I got to figure it out." Right? So I learned on the fly again. I learned by doing it.
Yep.
By the time I got back, I could drive a stick.
Yep. So she gets
So I'll set you up on that. Yep. So that's awesome, man. But it's true. Yeah.
Hey, how can people stay in touch with you, man? How can we keep up with Matt? How can
I appreciate it, man.
Give us your social media handles and all that?
Obviously, the Essential 11. If you want to check out the podcast, man, that's great. I'm most active on IG. It's just my name, Matt Beaudreau. But check out the Acton Academy Schools, man. ActonAcademy.org. If you're in the Sac area, ActonPlacer.com. And the mentorship program too, man. If you got a young man, Apogee Strong, is what Tim and I are doing. So check that out. And Apogee U will come out this fall. So
what's the age group
for that too? So Apogee Strong, man, is because of the topics we get into and some of the mentors we have. I always recommend kind of a mature 12, 13, maybe at the youngest. And we've got
Teenagers?
guys up into 18, 19, 20. I think we got a couple guys in their early 20s. And then Apogee U will be a post-high school, college alternative, 1-year college alternative for young men. So you have to be post-high school for that. But
Good stuff.
yeah, man.
Do you have any? Every podcast drops on a Monday. So what's a good way to start a week for you? Give us a routine through Matt's daily, weekly start.
Yeah, the week always looks different because every day is a combination of whatever I've got going on of all of those different things we've been talking about on the podcast. But every day actually starts, for me the night before. It's always my boy Craig Ballantyne kind of got me on this for the last few years, and it's really just the night before with that super big brain dump, trying to get, okay, here's all the things I know I got to get out. I just put them out on paper so I'm not in bed. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you go to bed and you're just like,
rolling back and
dude,
forth,
you're just
thinking
rolling
about it.
because you're like, I got to solve the world's problems right here while I'm laying in bed. And it just, all it does is keep you awake. So I get that brain dump down and I prioritize my list for the next day. So Sunday, I'm prioritizing my Monday, man. So I know exactly what to do. And then every morning starts out the same as far as getting up, grabbing coffee. That's when I do a lot of my reading and studying while I'm kind of drinking that in the morning and get a little bit of like focus time, hit my workout, hit the shower. And by then the kids are up and we're rocking and rolling on that priority list. So, but it always starts the night before.
Great stuff. All right, well, thank you for coming
pleasure,
on,
man.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Thank you guys for listening. If you got something from this episode, you enjoyed it, or you know someone that could enjoy it or gain something from it, share it with them. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Leave a comment, like. And thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next Monday where we'll be talking about enthusiasm. I don't even know if I said it right.
Yeah, you did.
I said it right.
You nailed
I
it.
always struggle with my English
That's
for
good,
some
man.
reason.
You're good.
But thank you guys for tuning in. We are out. Deuces.